My millionaire children laughed when I asked for $500 to fix my leaking roof. My name is Daniel Anderson, and that laugh cost them $5.4 million. See, I'm just a nurse. 25 years in the ICU at Boston Medical. $62,000 a year. Drive a beat-up Honda with 180,000 miles. Live in a small apartment where the ceiling drips when it storms. My kids make more in bonuses than I see all year. Veronica pulls in 180 as a bank vice president. Michael makes 220 as an investment advisor. They live in million-dollar houses and vacation in Europe twice a year. When I called them after Hurricane Delilah destroyed my roof, they told me to get a real job and stop being a financial burden. What they didn't know? 3 months earlier, I'd won the Mega Millions lottery. $5.4 million. Cash sitting in my account while they called me a failure. I kept it secret because I wanted to see who my family really was. Turns out they were exactly who I thought they were. Shallow. Cruel. Embarrassed by their father who saves lives for a living. So I decided to teach them the most expensive lesson of their lives. At Boston's biggest charity auction, in front of 300 of the city's elite, including my daughter's banking colleagues and my son's investment clients. The look on their faces when I outbid pharmaceutical executives and tech billionaires? Priceless. The sound of their world crashing down when I announced my $2 million donation? Even better. This story has everything. Family betrayal, hidden wealth, public humiliation, and justice served ice cold in a room full of witnesses. If that sounds like your kind of story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love hearing from viewers who understand that respect can't be bought, only earned. But first, let me tell you about the worst Thanksgiving dinner of my life and how it set everything in motion. Let me paint you a picture of how my own children saw me. I'm Daniel Anderson, 58 years old. For a quarter century, I've worked the ICU at Boston Medical Center, Wing 4 East, rooms 401 through 420. I know every machine, every code, every sound that means life or death. I've held hands with dying patients when their families couldn't make it in time. I've performed CPR for 40 minutes straight until backup arrived. I've saved more lives than I can count. But to Veronica and Michael, I was just a failure. Veronica Anderson Clark. That's what she calls herself now. Vice President at Eastern Trust and Savings. $180,000 a year. BMW X5 in the driveway. 750 credit score. She introduces me at parties as someone who works in healthcare. Never says nurse. Never says ICU. Just healthcare. Michael Anderson. Investment advisor at Hartwell Financial. $220,000 annually. Audi A8. Golf club membership that costs more than my monthly salary. He tells his colleagues I'm semi-retired because saying his dad makes $62,000 as a nurse doesn't fit his image. The first sign I was losing them happened 3 years ago. Thanksgiving dinner at Veronica's house in Brookline. Her in-laws were visiting, successful people, country club types. They were discussing their children's careers around the dinner table. Veronica's father-in-law mentioned his son, the surgeon. Her mother-in-law bragged about her daughter, the corporate lawyer. When they asked about me, Veronica hesitated. My father works at Boston Medical, she said. Oh, wonderful. What department? Another pause. Patient care. I watched my daughter tie herself in knots to avoid saying the word nurse, like it was something shameful, like 25 years of saving lives was embarrassing. Michael jumped in. Dad's been there forever. Very stable position. Stable. That's code for dead-end job in their world. I sat there eating turkey and listening to my children minimize my life's work. They talked about their bonuses while I calculated whether I could afford new tires for my 2011 Honda Civic. 180,000 miles on it. Cloth seats worn thin. Radio broken for 2 years. The second sign came 6 months ago. Parent-teacher conference for Veronica's daughter, Emma. My granddaughter, 8 years old, sharp as a tack. Wants to be a doctor when she grows up. Emma's teacher asked what Grandpa does for work. Grandpa Danny helps sick people get better, Emma said proudly. Veronica corrected her immediately. He works at the hospital in administration. Administration. My own daughter lied about my job to an elementary school teacher, but the breaking point was 3 weeks ago. October 15th. That's when Hurricane Delilah hit Massachusetts. 90-mile-per-hour winds. My roof took a beating. Shingles scattered across the yard like playing cards. Rain pouring into my bedroom through a hole the size of a basketball. I called 3 contractors. Cheapest estimate was $800. I had maybe $200 in checking. Payday wasn't for another week. So I called Veronica. Hey, sweetheart, I hate to ask, but I need to borrow $500 for roof repairs. The storm really... Dad, you can't keep calling us for money. It's just temporary. I'll pay you back Friday when you're 58 years old. When are you going to get your financial life together? Then I called Michael. Mike, it's your dad. Listen, I've got a roof situation and let me stop you right there. Veronica told me you already called her. The ceiling's leaking into my bedroom. Dad, you need to face reality. You chose a career that doesn't pay well. That's not our responsibility. Their words hit harder than the hurricane. You chose a career that doesn't pay well. 25 years, over 9,000 shifts, thousands of lives saved, and my son reduced it to a poor career choice. But here's what they didn't know, what nobody knew. 3 months earlier, on March 15th, I'd bought a lottery ticket at Murphy's Corner Store. Same numbers I'd played for 15 years. My late wife Margaret's birthday, our anniversary, Emma's birthday, and I won $5.4 million. I need you to understand what silence cost me. Every family gathering became a performance, pretending to struggle, pretending to worry about bills, watching my children treat me like a charity case while I had more money in my checking account than they'd see in a lifetime. But it wasn't about the money. It was about respect. See, if I stayed quiet, I'd lose my grandchildren. Emma was already 8. Tommy was 6. At family dinners, I watched Veronica and Michael teach them that Grandpa Danny was the family disappointment, the cautionary tale, the example of what happens when you don't apply yourself. Make sure you study hard, Veronica would tell Emma, so you don't end up like Grandpa with a job that barely pays the bills. Michael would nod along. Education is everything. Look at your mom and me, then look at Grandpa. They were poisoning my own grandchildren against me. Christmas was coming. Veronica had already uninvited me from their family ski trip to Vermont. It's pretty expensive, Dad. Maybe next year when you're more financially stable. Michael's New Year's Eve party? It's really more of a professional networking thing. You probably wouldn't enjoy it. I was being erased from my own family. Worse, I was losing myself. 25 years in the ICU, and I'd started questioning my own worth. Maybe they were right. Maybe I had wasted my life. Maybe choosing to save lives instead of chasing money made me a failure. I'd catch myself apologizing for existing, thanking them for including me in family photos, grateful when they'd let me babysit my own grandchildren. That's what silence does. It makes you complicit in your own diminishment. But there was something else. Something that made the betrayal cut deeper. 3 years ago, Margaret died in the same ICU where I work, pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Insurance covered most of it, but not everything. The experimental treatments cost us $47,000 out of pocket. I liquidated my entire retirement account, took a second mortgage on the house. Veronica and Michael knew this. They watched me empty my savings trying to save their mother. When she died, they watched me come back to work 3 days later because I couldn't afford time off. Did they offer to help with the medical bills? No. Did they offer to help with the funeral costs? No. Did they ever once say thank you for sacrificing everything to give their mother a fighting chance? No. Instead, they made jokes about my financial irresponsibility. So when that roof started leaking, when I made those phone calls, I wasn't really asking for money. I was asking for acknowledgement, recognition. Some sign that my 25 years of service meant something to them. Instead, they told me to get a real job. That's when I knew something had to change. That's when I decided to stop being invisible. The confrontation happened 2 days after the roof calls. October 17th, Veronica's birthday dinner at Maria, downtown Boston. $150 entrees, $200 wine bottles. The kind of place where they look at my Honda Civic like it's contaminated. I showed up anyway. Figured it was my daughter's birthday. Veronica was already irritated when I walked in. Dad, you can't park that car here. The valet will think you're lost. It's a restaurant, sweetheart, not a country club. Just try to blend in, okay? Michael arrived 20 minutes later, Audi detailed to showroom shine, designer suit that cost more than my monthly salary. He barely looked at me. Danny, he said, not Dad, Danny. Michael, how's the roof situation? Still leaking? Have you considered applying for assistance programs? There are resources for people in your situation. My situation. Like poverty was a disease I'd caught. Dinner started civil enough. Veronica talked about her latest promotion, branch manager to vice president, $40,000 raise. Michael bragged about his investment portfolio, up 30% this year, bought his wife a Rolex for their anniversary. They ordered the lobster, $68 each. I ordered soup, $14. Dad, you can afford more than soup, Veronica said. I'm fine. This is exactly what we're talking about. You can't even enjoy a nice dinner. Michael leaned forward. Veronica's right. This scarcity mindset is holding you back. Scarcity mindset? Living in constant fear of money? It's a psychological trap. I set down my spoon. You think I'm afraid of money? Look at your life, Dad. Same job for 25 years. Same small apartment. Same broken-down car. You've never taken a risk. Never pushed yourself. I save lives, Michael. Lots of people save lives. Doctors save lives and drive Mercedes. Veronica jumped in. We're not saying there's anything wrong with being a nurse. Yes, you are. We're saying you could have done more. Applied to medical school. Gotten your nurse practitioner license. Advanced yourself. I was busy raising 2 children. Mom worked too. She found time to advance her career. My wife Margaret had been a teacher, beloved by her students, died knowing she'd made a difference. But according to my children, even she was a failure for not climbing higher. Your mother was a wonderful teacher. She was, but she could have been a principal, a superintendent, made real money. Real money. There it was. So saving lives isn't real work unless it pays 6 figures? Michael's voice got sharper. Don't twist our words. Then explain it to me. What exactly is wrong with my career? Nothing's wrong with it, Veronica said. It's just limited. Limited how? Financially, socially, professionally? I work with some of the best doctors in Boston, as their subordinate. The word hung in the air like smoke. Subordinate. Is that how you see me? As a subordinate? Dad, you're being dramatic. Answer the question. Michael straightened his tie. We see you as someone who settled, who took the safe route, who never challenged himself to be more. More than what? More than a nurse making $60,000 a year at 58 years old. The restaurant continued buzzing around us, other families laughing, celebrating, while mine dissected my worth like a failed investment. What would make you proud of me? Veronica softened slightly. We are proud. What job would make you proud? Silence. Doctor, I pressed. Well, yes. Lawyer? Sure. Investment banker? Obviously. But not nurse. More silence. Not the job I've had for 25 years. Not the career I chose to raise you. Not the work I do every single day to keep people alive. Michael's patience snapped. You want honesty? Fine. We're embarrassed. When people ask what our father does, we cringe. When we see you drive up in that piece of junk car, we hope our friends don't notice. When you show up to events in your $15 Walmart shirts, we make excuses for you. The truth. Finally. I smiled. Actually smiled. Because they had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in 25 years. I called in sick. Not because I was ill, because I had appointments to keep. First stop, Hartwell, Stone & Associates, downtown Boston, 37th floor, the kind of law firm that handles 8-figure estates and corporate acquisitions. Not exactly the place you'd expect to find a $60,000 nurse. The receptionist looked confused when I walked in. I'm here to see Jonathan Hartwell. I have a 10 a.m. appointment. She checked her computer twice. You're Daniel Anderson? That's right. Please have a seat. Mr. Hartwell will be right with you. 15 minutes later, Jonathan Hartwell himself walked out. Not his assistant, not a junior partner, the founding partner of the most prestigious law firm in Massachusetts. Mr. Anderson, a pleasure to finally meet you in person. The receptionist's jaw dropped. We spent 2 hours in his corner office. Views of Boston Harbor, mahogany desk that cost more than my car. But Jonathan treated me like I owned the building, because, legally speaking, I could. The trust structure is complete, he said, sliding papers across his desk. Everything's exactly as you requested. Anonymous donor status maintained. The hospital foundation will never know the money came from you unless you choose to reveal it. And the other matter? Your will has been updated. Both children have been removed as beneficiaries. The new document is ironclad. I signed 23 pages. Each signature felt like liberation. Mr. Anderson, if I may ask, why the secrecy? Most lottery winners announce immediately. I wanted to see who my family really was, without money changing the equation. He nodded. And now you know. Now I know. Second stop. Eastern Trust and Savings, Veronica's bank. I walked into the main branch wearing my hospital scrubs. Figured if I was going to make a withdrawal, might as well dress the part. The teller looked at my account balance and called her supervisor. The supervisor looked and called the branch manager. The branch manager looked and called Veronica. 20 minutes later, my daughter appeared, confused and slightly panicked. Dad, what are you doing here? Banking. She glanced at the computer screen. Whatever she saw made her face go white. Is there... Is everything okay? Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just moving some money around. That's a lot of money, Dad. Is it? I could see her calculating, wondering, how does a nurse have this kind of balance? Where did this come from? Should she ask? She decided not to ask. Well, if you need any help with financial planning, I'm all set. Thanks, though. I withdrew $500 cash, made sure she watched, made sure she saw that her broke father was pulling more money out of his checking account than she made in a week. See you at Michael's barbecue this weekend, I said. She was still standing there when I left. Something told me this weekend was going to be very interesting. Michael's barbecue was supposed to be casual, family and friends, backyard gathering at his Lexington house, $2.3 million colonial with a pool and tennis court. I arrived in my Honda Civic, parked between a Mercedes and a Tesla. Got out wearing my best button-down shirt. $15 at Walmart, like Michael said. But this time, I didn't feel embarrassed. Veronica was already there, still rattled from our bank encounter. She kept glancing at me like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. "Danny," Michael called out, "glad you could make it." He was grilling steaks, $100 cuts of meat. His friends stood around holding craft beers and talking about market volatility. These weren't just friends. These were his colleagues, investment advisors, financial planners, bank executives, the kind of people who measured worth in portfolio balances and net worth statements. "Everyone, this is my father," Michael announced. "Danny Anderson. Not Dad, Danny, like we were business associates." "What do you do, Danny?" asked Richard, a portfolio manager from Fidelity. Before I could answer, Michael jumped in. "Dad works in healthcare at Boston Medical." "Ah, administration?" Another pause. Michael's discomfort was visible. "Patient care," Veronica said, trying to help. "Nursing?" Richard asked. The dreaded word. You could feel the energy shift. These people treated nurses like service workers, necessary but beneath notice. "ICU," I said clearly. 25 years. "That must be rewarding," Richard's wife said. "The way you'd compliment a janitor. Polite but dismissive. Very rewarding." Michael changed the subject quickly. Started talking about his latest client acquisition. $3 million portfolio. $40,000 annual fee. I listened quietly. Watched my son perform for his colleagues. Watched him distance himself from his embarrassing father. Then Veronica's phone rang. "It's the bank," she told Michael quietly. "I need to take this." She walked toward the house, but not far enough. "What do you mean verify the account? I'm looking at it right now. 5.4 million? That can't be right. No, I'm talking about Daniel Anderson, my father. You're sure this is accurate?" The entire patio went silent. Michael's spatula froze mid-flip. Veronica walked back, her face pale. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "Dad," she said slowly, "we need to talk." "About what?" "The bank called. There's some kind of discrepancy with your account." Every eye was on us now. Michael's colleagues sensing drama. "What kind of discrepancy?" "They're showing a balance that doesn't make sense." "What balance?" She hesitated. These weren't family members anymore. These were witnesses. $5.4 million. The silence stretched forever. Richard choked on his beer. Michael's steak hit the ground. Veronica's hands were shaking. "That's impossible," Michael said finally. "The bank confirmed it 3 times, Veronica whispered. All eyes turned to me. The $60,000 nurse. The family disappointment. The man they'd spent years pitying. "Huh," I said mildly. "Must be some kind of mistake." "Dad?" Michael's voice cracked. "Where did that money come from?" "What money?" "The $5.4 million. His colleagues were leaning in now. This was better than cable television. "Oh, that money. Yes, that money." I took a sip of my beer. Domestic. $3 a bottle. Same brand I'd been drinking for decades. I won the lottery. The words dropped like a bomb. "You what?" Veronica gasped. "I won the lottery. March 15th. Mega Millions. 5.4 million after taxes. That was 8 months ago. Yes, it was." "Why didn't you tell us?" I looked around the patio, at Michael's colleagues, at their expensive clothes and judgmental faces, at my children who'd spent years treating me like a burden, because I wanted to see who you really were. Michael's face went from pale to red. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I've been rich for 8 months, and you've been treating me like garbage for 8 months. We haven't... You told me to get a real job." "Dad, we didn't know." "You said I was a financial burden. If we had known you had money, you would have treated me differently?" Silence. That's the problem, I said quietly. You should have treated me with respect because I'm your father, because I raised you, because I spent 25 years saving lives, not because I have money. Richard cleared his throat. Maybe we should give you folks some privacy. No, I said. Stay. You might learn something. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, turned the screen toward the crowd. $5,423,891.33. Gasps around the patio. That's more money than most of you will see in your lifetimes, and it belongs to the $60,000 nurse you were all looking down on 5 minutes ago. Michael's world was crumbling in real time, in front of his colleagues, his professional network, his carefully constructed image. Dad, please. Please what? Please pretend this didn't happen. Please go back to being your embarrassing poor father. I stood up, finished my beer. Thanks for the barbecue, son, but I think I'll head home. Got a big day tomorrow. What's tomorrow? I smiled. For the first time in months, a genuine smile. Tomorrow I'm making the biggest donation in Boston Medical Center's history. December 15th, Boston Medical Center Annual Charity Auction. Grand Ballroom at the Fairmont Copley Plaza. Black tie event. Ticket prices started at $500 per person, the kind of gathering where Boston's elite came to be seen writing big checks. I arrived alone, rented tuxedo from Men's Warehouse. $149. It fit fine, but you could tell it wasn't custom. I felt like a waiter at my own party. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, round tables for 10, auction items displayed around the perimeter, vacation packages, art pieces, dinner with the mayor, the usual charity auction fare. Veronica was already there, table 7, right up front. She'd brought her husband and 2 colleagues from the bank, trying to impress them with her generosity. Her paddle number was 47. I made note of it. Michael arrived 10 minutes later. Table 5. Even closer to the stage. He'd invited his biggest client, a pharmaceutical executive worth $50 million, making sure everyone knew he traveled in important circles. Neither of them had spoken to me since the barbecue. I found my assigned seat, table 15, way in the back, next to the kitchen doors, the cheap seats, exactly where you'd expect to find someone who bought the lowest tier ticket. "Are you at the right table?" asked the woman next to me. Designer dress, diamond earrings that could pay my salary for 6 months. Table 15, I confirmed. She looked confused, like I'd crashed the party. The auction began with small items, signed sports memorabilia, weekend getaways, dinner packages. Bids started low and climbed steadily. Veronica bid on a spa weekend, won it for $800, made sure everyone saw her paddle go up. Michael bid on golf lessons with a PGA pro, $1,500. His client nodded approvingly. Then Dr. Rebecca Martinez, Chief of Staff, took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's final item is very special. We're auctioning the naming rights to our new children's wing. The winning bidder will have the wing permanently dedicated in their honor. Bronze plaque in the main lobby. Recognition in perpetuity. This is a chance to leave a lasting legacy at one of America's finest hospitals." The crowd stirred with interest. This was the big-ticket item, the one that separated serious philanthropists from casual donors. "We'll start the bidding at $50,000. Paddles shot up immediately. Table 1, Table 3, Table 7, Veronica's table. She wasn't bidding herself, but her colleagues were impressed that she was even in the room for this level of giving. 60,000, 75,000, 100,000. The bidding climbed steadily. Veronica watched with obvious envy. This was real money, the kind of donation that got your name in the society pages. 150,000, 200,000. Michael's client raised his paddle. 250,000. Michael beamed like he'd bid himself, basking in reflected glory. 250,000 going once. That's when I stood up. From table 15, in my rented tuxedo, the man everyone had dismissed. $2 million. The ballroom went silent, completely, utterly silent. Dr. Martinez blinked. "I'm sorry, did you say $2 million? Gasps echoed through the room, heads turned. People craned their necks to see who had just bid more money than most of them made in a decade. Veronica's face went white. Michael looked like he'd been electrocuted. "Sir, did you say $2 million? "That's correct." "And you are?" "Daniel Anderson, ICU nurse, Wing 4 East, 25 years of service." The crowd murmured. "A nurse? A hospital employee? Bidding $2 million? Dr. Martinez recovered her composure. "Mr. Anderson, are you certain about this bid?" "Completely certain." She looked around the room. "Do I hear 2,100,000? Silence. When someone bids 10 times the previous amount, the auction usually ends. 2 million going once, going twice, sold to Mr. Daniel Anderson for $2 million. Applause erupted. But it was confused applause, polite but bewildered. How does a nurse bid $2 million? Dr. Martinez gestured for me to join her on stage. I walked forward, past table 7 where Veronica sat frozen, past table 5 where Michael stared in shock, up to the podium where Boston's medical and financial elite waited for an explanation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Martinez announced, "our winning bidder, Daniel Anderson." She handed me the microphone. I looked out at the crowd. 300 of Boston's wealthiest citizens. People who'd never noticed me despite working in the same hospital for 25 years. "Thank you," I began. "I'm not used to speaking to crowds like this. Usually I'm upstairs in the ICU keeping your family members alive while you're down here writing checks." Nervous laughter. "I've worked at Boston Medical for 25 years, 9,000 shifts. I've held hands with dying patients. Performed CPR until my arms cramped. Cleaned up messes you can't imagine. And I've loved every minute of it." I found Veronica in the crowd. She was crying. 3 months ago, I learned that my own children were ashamed of my career. They called me a financial burden. Told me to get a real job. Said I'd wasted my life saving lives instead of making money. Michael had his head in his hands. "So I'd like to dedicate this children's wing to everyone who's ever been told their work doesn't matter because it doesn't pay enough. To every nurse, teacher, firefighter, and social worker who's been made to feel small because they chose service over salary." I pulled out a manila envelope, the one I'd been carrying for 3 months. "Dr. Martinez, this is a cashier's check for $2.1 million. The extra 100,000 is for the bronze plaque. I want it to read, 'The Anderson Family Children's Wing,' in honor of those who save lives, not those who make money." I handed her the check. She opened it. Her eyes widened. This is real." "Yes, it is." She turned to the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have our largest single donation in hospital history." The applause was thunderous now, standing ovation, but I wasn't done. "There's something else," I said into the microphone. The crowd settled. 8 months ago, I won $5.4 million in the lottery. I told no one. I wanted to see who my family really was without money changing the equation. Gasps throughout the ballroom. I learned that respect can't be inherited. It has to be earned, and it can't be bought. It has to be given. I looked directly at Veronica and Michael. "To my children, if you're listening, I spent 25 years earning respect from patients, families, doctors, and colleagues. I saved thousands of lives. I made a difference every single day, and I was proud of my work even when you weren't proud of me." Veronica was sobbing openly now. "But I refuse to apologize for choosing a meaningful career over a profitable one. I refuse to be ashamed of honest work, and I refuse to be treated like a burden by people who owe their very existence to my sacrifices." I handed the microphone back to Dr. Martinez. "Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Anderson." The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. People were wiping away tears. This wasn't just a donation. It was a declaration. A moment when someone who'd been invisible became impossible to ignore. As I walked off the stage, I passed Veronica's table. She reached out to touch my arm. "Dad," I stopped. "The Anderson Family Children's Wing," I said quietly. "That's my family now. The families of the children I'll help save. The families who understand that some work is sacred regardless of the paycheck." I looked at Michael. "You wanted to know what would make me proud? Tonight made me proud. Not the money, not the attention. The fact that I finally stood up for every nurse, teacher, and service worker who's ever been made to feel small. I straightened my rented bow tie. Enjoy the rest of your evening." And I walked out of the ballroom, leaving my children to explain to their colleagues how the family disappointment had just become the hospital's greatest benefactor. The next morning, I sat in Jonathan Hartwell's office with 3 documents that would change everything. "Are you certain about this, Mr. Anderson?" he asked. "These decisions are irreversible. I've never been more certain about anything." The first document was an amendment to my will. Veronica and Michael were officially removed as beneficiaries. Instead, my estate would fund nursing scholarships at Boston Medical Center. Every penny of my remaining fortune would go to people who chose service over salary. "Your children will receive nothing? They'll receive exactly what they told me I was worth, nothing." I signed my name with a Mont Blanc pen. $1,500. A gift from the hospital board after the auction. My first expensive pen. It felt appropriate. The second document was a trust agreement. $1 million set aside for my grandchildren's education, but with conditions. Emma and Tommy can access the funds at 18, I explained, but only if they spend 2 years in public service first. Teaching, nursing, social work, military service, something that helps others. And if they refuse, the money goes to charity. I wanted my grandchildren to understand that privilege comes with responsibility, that wealth without purpose is meaningless. The third document was a restraining order. Mr. Anderson, this seems extreme. My children have called me 47 times since the auction. They've shown up at my apartment. They've contacted my colleagues. They've even tried to reach me through patients' families. All begging, all apologizing, all suddenly understanding how much they loved and respected their father. I need legal protection from their desperation. Jonathan reviewed the paperwork. This prohibits any contact for 6 months. No calls, emails, texts, or visits. Perfect. After 6 months, we'll see if they've learned anything. I signed the restraining order. 3 signatures that ended 30 years of emotional manipulation. But the real payoff wasn't legal. It was practical. I drove to Michael's investment firm, walked into the marble lobby wearing my hospital scrubs, asked to speak with the branch manager. I'd like to close my account, I told her. Mr. Anderson, your son has been trying to reach you. I'm aware. I'd like to transfer my portfolio to Fidelity. Her face went pale. Michael had been managing my retirement account. $47,000. Not much by their standards, but still a client relationship. Sir, I'm sure we can work out whatever issues. No issues. I just prefer working with firms that don't employ people who call their parents financial burdens. 20 minutes later, my account was closed. Michael's commission? Gone. His client relationship with his own father? Terminated. Next stop, Eastern Trust and Savings, Veronica's bank. I walked up to the main branch wearing my name tag. D. Anderson, RN, ICU 4E, 25 years service. The same teller who'd called Veronica 3 weeks ago recognized me immediately. Mr. Anderson, how can we help you today? I'd like to move my accounts to Boston Medical Credit Union. All of them? All of them. $5.2 million, the largest account transfer in the branch's history. Veronica's bank was losing their biggest individual depositor because their vice president had called her father a failure. The branch manager appeared instantly. Mr. Anderson, surely we can discuss. Nothing to discuss. I prefer banking with institutions that understand the value of healthcare workers. He looked panicked. Your daughter is one of our finest employees. My daughter told me to get a real job. I have a real job. 25 years of saving lives. Your bank obviously doesn't value that kind of work. Within an hour, my money was gone. Veronica's biggest success story had become her greatest professional embarrassment. But the most satisfying payoff was personal. I returned to the ICU for my shift. Same job, retripe, continue edit. Same job. Same patients. Same life-saving work I'd done for 25 years. But everything was different. The bronze plaque was already being fabricated. The Anderson Family Children's Wing. My name would be in that lobby forever. Not as a patient or visitor, but as a benefactor. Every sick child who entered that wing would walk past a reminder that their nurse had valued their life enough to give millions. Dr. Martinez stopped by during my rounds. Daniel, the board wants to offer you the position of patient care coordinator, administrative role, 40% salary increase. Thanks, but no. You could make policy decisions, shape patient care across the entire hospital. I save lives better from bedside than from boardrooms, she smiled. I had a feeling you'd say that. Besides, I added, I don't need the money. That afternoon, I got a call from the Boston Globe. Word had leaked about the auction. About the nurse who'd donated $2 million. About the lottery winner who'd kept his secret for 8 months. Mr. Anderson, we'd like to do a feature story. No interviews. But this is an incredible human interest story. The story isn't about me. It's about every healthcare worker who's ever been undervalued. Let them tell their stories. I hung up. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Then another. And another. Nurses from across the hospital. Doctors, orderlies, janitors, all the invisible people who kept the place running. Thank you for standing up for us. You said what we've all been thinking. Finally, someone showed them what we're really worth. But the best message came from Emma, my 8-year-old granddaughter. Grandpa Danny, Mommy says you're famous. She's crying, but she won't tell me why. I told my teacher you gave money to help sick kids, and she said you're a hero. I always knew you were a hero. I love you. That's when I understood the real payoff. It wasn't the money. It wasn't the recognition. It wasn't even the revenge. It was dignity. For 25 years, I'd saved lives and been treated like a failure. Now I'd saved lives and been treated like a hero. The work hadn't changed. The respect had. My children had taught me that love without respect is worthless. That family without dignity is just shared DNA. That success isn't about the size of your paycheck. It's about the size of your impact. I'd won $5.4 million, but I'd gained something more valuable. I'd gained my self-worth back, and that was priceless. The story hit social media 3 days later, not the official story, the real story, told by people who were there. Richard, Michael's colleague from Fidelity, posted on LinkedIn, attended a charity auction where a hospital nurse outbid pharmaceutical executives and tech billionaires, donated $2 million to build a children's wing. Turns out he'd won the lottery 8 months ago and told no one. His own kids had been treating him like a charity case. Most powerful moment I've witnessed in 20 years of wealth management. The post went viral, 15,000 likes, 3,000 comments, hundreds of shares. The comments were brutal for Veronica and Michael. Imagine being so shallow you're embarrassed by a father who saves lives. Those kids got exactly what they deserved. Nothing. Every nurse should print this story and hang it in their break room. Veronica's colleagues at Eastern Trust saw the post. Her boss called her into his office. "Veronica, is this about your father?" "Yes, sir." "The father you told us was struggling financially?" "Sir, I can explain." "The father whose account we just lost? Our biggest individual depositor?" "I didn't know he had that kind of money." "You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed. And now your personal family drama has cost this bank $5.2 million and our reputation in the medical community." Veronica was transferred to a smaller branch in Quincy. No more downtown office. No more prestige clients. No more fast track to senior management. Her husband filed for divorce 6 weeks later. Couldn't handle the social embarrassment. The country club whispers. The way people looked at them now. Michael's situation was worse. His pharmaceutical client, the $50 million portfolio, fired him immediately. "I can't work with someone who doesn't respect healthcare workers," he said. "My wife is a nurse practitioner. If this is how you treat your own father, how can I trust you with my family's money?" Word spread through Boston's financial community. Michael became toxic. The investment advisor whose own father had to restrain him from making contact. Clients don't trust money managers who can't manage family relationships. He was forced to leave Hartwell Financial, started his own practice, lost 60% of his client base in the first month. But the real consequences were social. At Emma's school, other parents started treating Veronica differently. Before, she was the successful bank executive. Now she was the woman who'd called her life-saving father a failure. "Is it true your dad won the lottery and you didn't know?" asked another mother at pickup. "It's complicated. Is it true he asked you for $500 and you said no?" "You don't understand the context. Is it true he donated $2 million to the hospital?" Veronica couldn't answer, because the answers made her look terrible. Tommy's Little League team had their end-of-season party at Boston Medical Center. The kids got a tour of the new Anderson family children's wing. Tommy saw his grandfather's name on the bronze plaque. "That's my grandpa," he announced proudly. The other parents stared. This was the grandfather his family never talked about, the one they seemed embarrassed by. "Your grandfather donated all this money?" asked Tommy's coach. "I guess so. He must be very generous." "I don't know. Mommy and Daddy don't like talking about Grandpa." The whispers started immediately. Michael tried damage control, posted on Facebook about how proud he was of his father, how family disagreements had been blown out of proportion, how blood was thicker than water. The comments were savage. "Where was this pride when you told him to get a real job? $5 million says you're lying. Your father's restraining order tells a different story. Respect is earned, not inherited." He deleted the post within hours. Veronica tried a different approach. "Showed up at Boston Medical Center during my shift. Security wouldn't let her past the lobby. 'Ma'am, Mr. Anderson has a restraining order. I'm his daughter. The restraining order specifically mentions you.' She waited in the parking garage for 6 hours. When I came out, she approached my car. 'Dad, please.' 'Veronica, you're violating a court order. I just want to talk.' 'You had 30 years to talk. You chose to lecture instead.' 'We made mistakes. You made choices. You chose to be embarrassed by my career. You chose to call me a burden. You chose to lie about my job to your friends. We didn't know you had money. That's exactly the problem. You only respect me now because I have money. Where was this respect when you thought I was poor? She started crying. We love you. Love isn't enough anymore. I need respect, and respect can't be bought or borrowed. It has to be earned. I got in my Honda Civic, still driving the same car, still wearing the same clothes, still working the same job, still the same man they'd called a failure. The difference was, now I knew my worth, and it wasn't measured in dollars. 3 weeks after the auction, I got a letter from Margaret's oncologist, the doctor who'd treated my wife during her final months. Daniel, I heard about your generous donation. Margaret would be so proud. She always said you were the strongest man she knew, not because of what you had, but because of what you gave. Every day, to every patient, to your family, to everyone whose life you touched. I hope you know how much you matter to all of us. I kept that letter on my refrigerator, next to Emma's drawing of us together, next to Tommy's thank you card for taking him to the Sox game, next to the photo of the bronze plaque with my name on it, the Anderson family children's wing, my real family legacy, not the children who'd rejected me, but the children I'd helped save. 6 months later, the restraining order expired. I didn't renew it. Instead, I sent Veronica and Michael a letter, handwritten, on hospital stationery. The legal prohibition on contact ends today, but my personal boundaries remain. If you want a relationship with your father, here are my terms. First, you will never again comment on my career, my income, or my lifestyle choices. Second, you will treat me with the same respect you show your colleagues and friends. Third, you will acknowledge that my 25 years of service matter, regardless of salary. Fourth, any future relationship will be based on who I am, not what I have. If these terms are acceptable, we can talk. If not, we can't. I mailed it on a Tuesday. Wednesday morning, my phone rang. Dad? Veronica's voice was small, uncertain. Hello, Veronica. I got your letter. And? I accept your terms. Silence stretched between us. Dad, I need you to know something. The night of the auction, I went home and cried for 3 hours. Not because of the money. Because I realized I'd spent years being ashamed of the most honorable man I knew. I listened. I told Emma and Tommy the truth, about your job, about what you do every day, about how you've saved thousands of lives. Emma asked me why I never told her how important you were. I couldn't answer her. What did you tell her? That Mommy made a terrible mistake, that Grandpa Danny is a hero, and I forgot that for a while. And Tommy? He wants to be a nurse when he grows up, like his grandpa. That hit harder than any insult ever had. Veronica, I need you to understand something. I don't want your respect because I have money. I want your respect because I've earned it through 25 years of service. You have it. You've always had it. I just lost sight of what mattered, Michael called that afternoon. Dad, I've been thinking about what you said, about respect being earned, not inherited. Go on. I've spent my whole career managing other people's money, making them richer, but I've never saved a single life, never held someone's hand while they died, never made a real difference in anyone's world. Your work matters too, Michael. Does it? Really? If I disappeared tomorrow, would anyone's life be worse? If you disappeared tomorrow, how many families would lose the person who might save their loved ones? I didn't answer. The answer was obvious. I want to make this right, he continued. I don't know how, but I want to try. It's not about making it right. It's about moving forward differently. What does that look like? It looks like you treating me like a person whose opinions matter, whose work has value, whose sacrifices enabled your success. Can I see you? In person? I thought about it. Sunday dinner, my apartment. Come alone. And Michael? Yes? Bring takeout. Chinese food. $15 special from Golden Dragon. Same place I've been ordering from for 20 years. Dad, we could go somewhere nice. The food isn't about money. It's about accepting who I am. $15 Chinese food in a 60-year-old nurse's apartment. If that's beneath you, don't come. It's not beneath me. We'll see. Sunday arrived. Michael showed up with Golden Dragon bags, sat at my kitchen table, same table where I'd paid bills and worried about money while he lived in luxury. Dad, your apartment is nice. It wasn't nice. It was small and old and furnished with second-hand furniture. But it was honest. I could afford better now, I said. But I like it here. It keeps me grounded. We ate lo mein and talked about his kids, his work, anything but money. Then he asked the question I'd been waiting for. Dad, what do I tell people when they ask about you? What do you want to tell them? I want to tell them my father saves lives, that he's worked the ICU for 25 years, that he's seen more death and suffering than anyone should have to see, and he goes back every day because it matters. Then tell them that. What about the lottery? The money? What about it? People are curious. People are always curious about money. Tell them my father is rich in the ways that matter. Tell them he's wealthy in respect and purpose and meaning. Tell them money is just numbers, but saving lives is sacred. He nodded. I can do that. Can you? Yes. Veronica came by the following weekend, with Emma and Tommy. First time I'd seen my grandchildren since the barbecue. Emma ran to me immediately. Grandpa Danny, I saw your name at the hospital. You're famous. I'm not famous, sweetheart. I just did what I could to help. Mommy says you're a hero. I looked at Veronica. She nodded. Mommy's right, I said, but not because of the money. Heroes are people who help others, even when it's hard, even when nobody notices, even when they don't get paid very much. Like nurses? Like nurses, and teachers, and firefighters, and your mommy when she helps families at the bank. Tommy was quieter, 8 years old and already thinking deeply. Grandpa, why did you give away so much money? Because money isn't really yours unless you use it to help people. But you could have bought a big house and a fancy car. I could have. But would that have made sick children feel better? No. Would it have helped families when their loved ones were dying? No. Then what good would it have been? He thought about it. Not much good. Exactly. We played board games, ate ice cream, watched cartoons, normal grandparent things, things I'd been excluded from for years. As they were leaving, Veronica pulled me aside. Dad, I need to ask you something. Go ahead. The inheritance. Michael and I know we're not in your will anymore. That's correct. We deserve that. But I need to know. Will Emma and Tommy be okay? For college? I smiled. There's a trust fund, $2 million. They can access it at 18, but only after 2 years of public service. Public service? Teaching, nursing, military, Peace Corps, something that helps others. If they choose service, they'll never want for anything. If they choose pure profit, they'll get nothing. You're trying to teach them what you taught us. I'm trying to teach them what you refused to learn. She nodded. It's a good lesson. We'll see if they're better students than their parents. As I watched them drive away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because my children finally respected me, but because I'd finally respected myself enough to demand it. The money had given me choices, but the choices had given me dignity. And dignity, I'd learned, was worth more than all the lottery winnings in the world. If you're watching this because someone in your family has made you feel small for the work you do, remember this. Your worth isn't measured by your paycheck. It's measured by your impact. It's measured by the lives you touch, the difference you make, the service you provide. I saved lives for 25 years while my children counted dollars. In the end, only one of those things really mattered. I hope you know which one, and I hope you never let anyone convince you otherwise. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Because whether you're a nurse in Boston or a teacher in Texas or a firefighter in Florida, your work matters. Don't ever let anyone tell you it doesn't.